So hello, I'm Berg Dushek. I'm with the World Economic Forum. A warm welcome to this concluding press conference of the fourth meeting of National Security Advisors on Ukraine's peace formula, which took place today here in Davos, co-chaired by Switzerland and Ukraine. Obviously, discussions were held on the points of the formula and also pathways for next steps. Now, with me here to share with you takeaways and next steps are members of the Ukrainian delegation at the meeting. So it's my honor now to all introduce you. Andrei Yermak, head of the presidential administration of Ukraine; Yulia Sverdenko, first deputy prime minister, minister of economy of Ukraine; Rustem Umerov, minister of defense of Ukraine; Denis Malyuska, Minister of Justice; and Andrei Kostin, Prosecutor General. We would have remarks from Andrei Yermak and Yulia Sverdenko at the beginning, and then we would, of course, welcome questions. So let me start with you, Andrei Yermak, if you can share with us key takeaways and next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say sorry for a little bit delay, dear journalist, and thank you for your attention for this so important event. And I'd like to start this and say thank you, Switzerland, for hosting this event that's meaningful and crucial for all humankind. And I need to emphasize that Mr. Borge Berende, Ignacio Cassis, and Klaus Schwab and their teams make every effort to bring nations together for dialogue and peace in Ukraine. Today we have the fourth meetings of the National Security and Political Advisors. There is, today was over 80 participants and in the countries and international organizations. And this event, it was logical continuation of our meeting in Copenhagen, Jeddah, and Malta. They gathered again to develop the ways to implement an international plan based on the Ukrainian peaceful formula. In Malta, we discussed the first 5 points of the peaceful formula, were nuclear security, food and energy security, the release of the prisoners and deportees, the restoration of territorial integrity and sovereignty. And here we work on the 5 points. They include the withdrawal of the Russian troops, the restoration of justice, environmental security, preventing and recurrence of the war, and confirming and the end of the war. Besides, we have 2 very important specific panels of our agenda. They focused on the food security and humanitarian issues. We have open and very constructive talks. We discussed in detail the key principle in reaching a comprehensive, just and lasting peace for Ukraine and world. I honestly can say, yes, we are very joined in the main principles of independence, territorial integrity, sovereignty, and norm of international law and status of United Nations. Of course, it's very important, and we have very respect that all participants very involved in this procedure. It will be not true if I said that everybody absolutely in the same positions, and this is good because you know the unique formula, unique plan, it's the combination of the different positions, different thought. But once again, very principled that we are very united in the main principles in which based the international law and statute of United Nations. To conclude, I would like again to thank the Margot Wallström and Baroness Helene Kennedy, both my co-chairs in the International Working Group in the Environmental and Returning Illegally Deported Children, joined us today's events along the Ukrainian delegations. We still have much work ahead, but we all of us in the same page and in really encouraging. And in the end, I'd like to say that these 2 years, practically we are very close for the 2 years of this terrible war. And I'd like to say that Ukraine living, Ukraine fighting, and Ukraine obviously win this war. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to you, First Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, so I would like to emphasize on one of the steps that we discussed during the peaceful formal meeting. It's food security. It's, I think, one step that unite over itself at least 40 different countries. So because, you know, Russia targeted not only Ukrainian, but people globally, and it's targeting not only people that live in Ukraine, but live 1,000 kilometers away from Ukraine. So the mine lands, the destroyed storage, and the blockage navigation, all this results in deficit for agri-good and in increasing the prices of worldwide. And we discussed it during the meeting of Peaceful Formula, and I've provided the statistic that after the invasion, the price jumped to record level. For example, the price for wheat jumped over $400 per ton. And the most strategic consequences, of course, it's for number of people that suffering from uncertainty because of insecurity. And this number of people increased from 2021 million to 324 million people. So we discuss it, and we discuss our common efforts that can help us to implement the food security issue. And we discussed very concrete things, and I think it's very important that all our meetings of national security, so we have worked out very concrete plan. First of all, we need to demine Black Sea. We need to provide insurance for the vessels. We need to provide a more anti-missiles, anti-drone system for the port infrastructure. And of course, we need to increase capacity of food aid to the most vulnerable consumers. And it's something that we discuss and something that we unite countries over this step. And I would like also to add and to finish with the fact that, like Andriy Yermak said, that Ukraine keep fighting, keep working, and during the first year of invasion, the Ukrainian economy has fallen up to 28%. Last year has shown that Ukrainian economy has grown up to 5%, and we keep fighting fast. It's existential war because Russia has choice to fight or not to fight. We don't have this choice, and that's why it's extremely important to involve as much country as it's possible. And we're pleased to admit that each time we meet, discuss this peaceful formula, the quantity of countries increasing. So that's why it's extremely important to have the next meeting and to have very concrete, practical outputs from these meetings. Thank you.
Thanks so much for these opening remarks. Now I'm opening the floor. The meeting is in English, and you can, of course, address questions to all the panelists here. If you can always say your name and your organization. So the gentleman here and then the gentleman there.
Thank you very much indeed. My name is Steve Sedgwick from CNBC. Mr. Yermak, I was in Kyiv at the time of the Russian invasion of Crimea back in 2014. I've seen the countries fight over the last 10 years and especially over the last 2 years. But to me, I'm afraid it is not obvious what you say that Ukraine will necessarily win. Do you have grave concerns that actually the Western support, both in Europe with delayed financing on the back of what Mr. Orban is doing at the moment, but also in the United States where there are grave concerns about what could happen after the next presidential election in terms of support, and there are concerns obviously under the current Congress about the level of support as well. Do you need to actually now start expanding the peace talks and actually getting to the table with the Russians? Because otherwise this could be a frozen conflict that could last another 10 years potentially.
Thank you very much for your questions. First of all, this president, his team, we never agreed and never accept any frozen conflict. First, it's not acceptable by Ukrainian society, and of course by the president and his team. The second, you know, when you are living every day in the war, then you go to sleep and not sure that you wake up, because we are over every night, every day of attacks of the missiles and drones, and you can see, you can see what happened 29th of December, of the 2nd of the January. It means that we are living in reality. I'm not thinking about some imaginations. And I can say very concretely, after visit of President Zelensky at the end of the last year and visit of our delegation several times in United States, and during the meetings in White House, in Congress, with both parties, with the Speaker, in State departments, talking to the expert, talking to the people who exactly know American policy, we back these positive feelings, and we hope and believe that finally the questions of the voting for the new budget for Ukraine for support will happen. I'm very positive also looking for the adoptions of the 50 billions from our European colleagues and friends. You know, these 2 years of our fightings, you can little bit back for beginning. And, you know, happened so many things which has the evidence. It's not my, you know, it's not just my emotion. Then I said, I sure that we win. You can remember the first days. And I'd like to say that we started to receive the weapons, the ammunitions in some months of the beginning. But during this period of time, our people, our brave nations, be able to liberate Kievska region, to stop the Russian army, to not give the opportunity to occupy full our territories. And don't forget the results for today of these fightings. We already liberated about 50% of the territory which was occupied from 24 of February 2022. We are practically stop any activity, and now Russian fleets transferring from Crimea to another place. This year, we not give opportunity to Russia to occupy any particular city or town. Yes, we continue hard fightings. Yes, just in these seconds, our heroes continue fightings in Avdiivka, near of Bakhmut, this small city, which many people in the world didn't know this name before this war. 1 year, billions, 100,000s of the military of Russia, criminals from Wagner's, which was just Wagner's was destroyed about 20,000 around Bakhmut. Still, they didn't occupy fully this city, in which not exist any survived buildings. We open new grain corridors. We not listen blackmails from Russian side. And now these corridors, it's working. As I said, first Prime Minister of Ukraine. It's not just belief. I think we show, Ukrainian nation show during these 2 years what we're able to win. Of course, with the help and support of our partners, our friends. And I believe that this support and this help will be continue. Thank you.
Thank you. It was the gentleman there, and then the lady here.
Sebastian Rosbeck, Swiss Television. Just a question, Mr. Yarmak. You said there were broad consensus today for your principles, for your demands, but as far as I understand, there is not a common declaration of the countries present in this fourth NSA meeting. Why is it not possible to have a common declaration if there is broad support?
First of all, when we started this format, I'd like to repeat that for us it's most important to listen. It's very unique examples in the international diplomacy. Then our President Vladimir Zelensky proposed, settled, and to found the solution and to end this war, not by negotiations on the table, by some not clear, transparent. He said, I'd like to show how it's possible to invite it all countries. Doesn't matter. Of course, we can't have the same position for 100%. But once again, it's important that all the country who was in the table during all these meetings respect Ukrainian independence, Ukraine's sovereignty, Ukrainian territorial integrity in the international recognized border, respect international law and respect statutes of the United Nations. But of course, we have the different thoughts how it's possible to do it. Somebody think that it's necessary immediately sitting at the table of negotiations, and we very clear, very openly explain why now it's not acceptable. Because I'm personally participated in the negotiations in the Normandy and Minsk format, and from up to the 24th of the February, we have over 200 rounds of these negotiations without common plan of responsible countries. Results, you can see. As why it's very important to listen everybody, because, you know, Ukraine needs not frozen conflict. Ukraine needs just peace. And Ukraine wants to prevent any potential aggressions in the future. And use this opportunity, I want to share with you our great news which happened 2 days ago. Then President Zelensky and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak signed the first agreements of the security cooperations, which based on the Vilnius declarations, which already we have on the board more than 30 countries who is joined. And this work is continuing. It's dialogue, and I'm sure the numbers of the country, we started from about 20 countries. Today we practically have the numbers of the countries of the General Assembly. And it's a very good that we sitting in one table, we talk openly, concretely, and Ukraine have the very open, very honest positions. We're ready to answer to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It was this lady there, then you there.
Manuela
And then the gentleman
Kaspar,
there.
Claridge, Deutsche Welle. I have a question to Mr. Umerov. Do you have sufficient personnel and weapons to win this war, as Mr. Yarmak was saying?
I would just clarify then. Strategic goal of Ukraine is to get to 1991 border. Military goal could be different. And sufficiency always requires what your enemy will do. If Russians will continue pressurize, if they will be continued not being touched by sanctions, they will be, the oil and gas will be bought, and steel and metals will be bought, chemicals and minerals will be bought, and all the materials from them will be bought, of course it will require more resources from us. We will be fighting until we get to the strategic goal, and we're ready to continue, and we need the partner support for it. Thank you.
Thank you. It was the lady here, and then the gentleman over there, and then the gentleman here.
Thank you very much. Sasha Vakulina, Euronews. Пане Єрмак, питання до вас, будь ласка. You said previously that it is important to get as many countries on board as possible. Has Ukraine been working on getting China on board as well for the peace formula? And how has this process been going, if you could share a little bit? And what other countries have you been trying to get on board for the peace formula?
Thank you, of course. Again, for us, important that all the countries who in the same principle with us will be on the board and on the table. Of course, we invited China, and you know that in the beginning, in the level, because our peaceful formula now existing in 3 levels. First levels, it's the meetings which we have in Kyiv in the level of ambassadors. The second, in the level, the meetings in the national security and political advisors. And the highest level, it's the leaders. China sometimes participated in the level of ambassadors and was in Jeddah. Unfortunately, in Malta and today here, there is no the representative of China. We invited, we will continue to invite. For us, important that China will be in the table, and we're looking that in the future China will be participated, because it's important influence country, and of course, maybe it's, and we continue this work to explain, because honestly, you know, it's necessary that the mostly country in the world know the truth, what happened. Because we're living in the atmosphere of the lot of Russian propaganda and narratives. And sometimes the country not get the absolutely clear and real information, what happened, how started this invasion, for what Ukrainian fightings, and what are our goals, why we not accept today any negotiations. It's necessary to explain, and we are not tired to continue this work. And of course, we will be happy. I'm very happy that today numbers of the country already increased, and we continue this work, and I'm sure that this number will be grow up, because you know what showed this war and Ukrainian fightings, that the mostly, and this is extremely important, the mostly ordinary people around the world, they made a choice. They want to be in the side of good and in the side of peace. And this is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. It was the gentleman there. Always, if you can mention your name and organization, it was then the gentleman there.
Laurent Siro for the Swiss Newswire, Keystone ATS. Mr. Yermak, you said there is much work still ahead, but as we understood, this one was supposed to be the last in a cycle of NSA meetings. So what will be the next steps, and are the conditions ripe for that global peace summit at the leaders level that you would like to see? When and where? And yeah, how many support of leaders for such a gathering do you already have? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Today we are closed the presentations of the all 10 points. Very important to understand that, of course, our goal to have the common plan. It means that in the end, in the results, it will be common plan, not Ukrainian, common plan of responsible country of the world. And next steps, we are looking to organize the first inaugurated summit in the level of the leaders, because our philosophy to have two summits. In the first, we started procedure and opened the next 9 separate international conference summit in the different levels. Advisors, Minister of Foreign Affairs, speakers, parliamentarians, experts, which will be concentrated by each 9 points of the peaceful formula. Working groups already done big part of this work, but in these events, in this conference, will be finalized 9 parts of future common plan. And in the second summit in the level of the leaders, we have in the table the plan, which we can finalize, fixed, and if country, for today I can say only terrorist country, aggressor country, but if in that moment this country will be really not talking about peace and not talking about some negotiations, but really demonstrated will to end this war, to back to the respect of international law and the statutes of United Nations, we will have to that moment the plan. Because conversations for conversations, it's zero results. We have in our history. And colleagues, reminder that full-scale invasion, 2 years, but the war, it's 10 years. And I'm sorry, but we have this dramatic, catastrophic experience which we wanted to repeat.
Thank you. There was the gentleman here.
Hello, yes, thank you. I'm Jamie Keaton from Associated Press. For Mr. Yermak, over here. Over here. Thank you. Hi, Howard. Nice to see you again. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned in your tweet on, or your telegram this morning about how it was a good sign that there are new countries, more countries here. Could you be specific as to which countries those are? There was, and what does it mean that there are more countries here? Does it mean that there are more countries that support President Zelensky's plan, or does it mean that there are more countries that want to get involved in bringing Russia to the table? And just as a final question, picking up on my Ukrainian colleague, President Zelensky is, of course, expected here, as is the Chinese Prime Minister. What's the possibility that there might be a meeting between them here in Switzerland?
Thank you. Started from the end of your questions. Yes, you know officially that President Zelensky will be here. Honestly, I come yesterday here, and I didn't see the final schedule of the meetings of the presidents. We know that the Prime Minister of China will be as well here. Let's see. About new countries. You know, we have the task of our president to make a job which sometimes country making during the, I don't say 100 years, but many years. To make that maximum countries in the world know what is a Ukraine and started to develop our relationship with maximum countries which is respect our independence, territorial integrity, and sovereignty. It means that this procedure very quick, and I'm very happy that practically every week we created, we opened, we developed, we fixed, started new relations or reconstruct the relations with new countries, with all continents. The last examples, the visit of the President Zelensky in inauguration of the new president of Argentina, and I'm very happy that today the representative of Argentina was on the table. By the way, today we have a lot of countries from African continents, and we have concrete tasks, and we're working now for the summit Ukraine-Africa. We're working on the summit Ukraine-Latin America. And you know, it's not just about, of course, for us, for me, for all Ukrainians, most important to win this war. But we're looking to the future. And I'm absolutely sure that independent, peaceful Ukraine in the recognized, internationally recognized borders, it's not just about principle and rules. It's about the direct national interest of the mostly country in the world. Because it's about our fruitful cooperation in the future. We have great country. We have great history. And, you know, we just today, why we're talking about reconstructions? We're talking about the future cooperations. And this is, you know, this is Ukrainian dream, which, of course, need to start from our victory. Thank you.
Thank you. Was the gentleman there? And then I think you have been also asking for the floor.
Alessandro Speciale from Bloomberg News. Mr. Yermak, you were mentioning some disagreements before that have emerged. Could you tell us a bit more about that and what are still the sticking points for the peace formula?
What do you mean disagreement?
You said that there was broad agreement, but there were also some disagreements. So if you could tell us.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to clarify. You have the same, we not have any discussion about the goal. We not any discussion that it's an aggression and Ukraine, the fightings, and everybody understand for what we are fighting. It's important that all the countries who is coming, they really, honestly want to participate and to help to end this war and to bring the peace. But there is a different thought idea how it's possible to do. And different countries have the different experience. Some conflicts in the history was settled by negotiations. Some conflicts looks like settled by negotiations. They started to be frozen, and we know examples how in 10 years, in 20 years, started new war, some more people killed, and we have in our history why we very openly explain we have this experience of negotiations. We spent hours, sometimes negotiations in Normandy formats, with our friends, presence, Germany and France. We have records. Once it was 12-hour non-stop, without any results. Because if you have the plan which supported, which mostly countries say and judge like reasonable, like the judge that it's logical, these negotiations will be continue without limitations. Especially now, after so brutal invasion, so brutal crimes which Russia made it in Ukraine. You know, it's not so many times, 80 years from the Second World War. I'm sure that anybody in the world can imagine that all the bad things, all brutal things back, concentrated camp, tortures, the destroying civilian houses, just the last bombing. It's nothing about military objects. They bombing hospital, they bombing schools, they killed civilians. If you can't imagine what explain people whom we back to the from Russian prisons. The minimum which these people lost by weight, it's 40 kilograms. It's terrible story, which some girls we back and she, thanks God, born the healthy child in 2 days. It's impossible for normal, adequate person to listen this story. About what negotiations it's possible to talk. But it's necessary to explain. Sometimes it's very emotional, but believe, we don't tired. And never be tired to protect interest of our country, to protect interest of our people, and to found, if just today, it's small percentage that somebody ready to listen, to hear you. We try 100 times because it's about our country and this is about our future.
Thank you. We'll have space for maximum 4 questions now, so it's the lady here, and then I think you there. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Najla Haberi from Ashraq Al-Awsat. Just following up on that, Mr. Yermak, is Ukraine facing pressure from its allies to offer compromises that are outside the 10-point peace plan, particularly potentially abandoning the idea of an immediate restoration of Ukrainian rule over Crimea? Thank you.
You know, the partners already know us. And they know that President Zelensky and the people who is participated in negotiations know our positions, respect our positions. And believe me, I never listen. I participated practically in all meetings in the high level, including leaders. I never listen that somebody from our partners, our friends, to discuss us any compromise which they exactly know that not acceptable for us, including the questions of Crimea. Here, my friends and our Minister of the Defense, the person who is Crimean Tatar, and he is from Crimea, ask him if he is ready to talk and to forget about his homeland. Maybe you can say one word.
Where are you from? UK. So let's assume that half of your territory has been grabbed by some enemy state, and then you've been asked, you've been, let's say, a refugee now, and you live in other part of your country, and then you get continuously your enemy is hitting you by rockets, missiles. Half of your population is actually from your occupied territory passed to another part where you live in shelters, and then they continue and they say, we don't want you to live in here, and we will continue killing you. What would be your question? Would you surrender to them? Yeah. So that's why this the same thing to me. We will never surrender. This is first. Secondly, if 10 years ago, you ask now how many countries do support us, 83, I think, at the moment, like who visited this conference. If 10 years ago, they have not closed their eyes to the what happened in Crimea, we wouldn't have Donbas, we wouldn't have a full-scale invasion. So that question should be, we should get rid of these questions. Why? If we will tolerate somebody's dignity today, territorial integrity, the occupants will continue such a hostility. So that's why it is important for us that rule of law should remain. Thank you.
Thank you. Two ladies there, and then will be one more question. So I'll go to this gentleman, and then we'll conclude. So we have two ladies there.
Okay, I'm Malin from Swedish newspaper Dagens Industri. A question for Mr. Umerov. I wonder, so there's been reports that the United States is frustrated with the lack of progress for Ukraine's strategy, military strategy for 2024. What can you say about the strategy for next year? And will you have any conversations with your US counterparts during your time in Davos?
As head of delegation already mentioned, whenever we visit US and other partners, all the parties, especially US, is supporting us. So I think you have to segregate two issues. That our strategic objective, as I said, is to get to 1991 borders. Our military objectives are always within the plan that has been agreed with partners. So we regained 50% of our territory. We are freed from northwestern Black Sea. The Russian fleet is moving from the temporary occupied Crimea, and we regained the territory for the 2024 plan. What is the plan for 2024? It's only Ukraine and its partners know. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you also had a question. Yes, please.
Yes, Victoria Wildesee from Reuters. Hi, I'm right next to Mr. Yermak, just a direct question. Is anybody pushing you to concede territory? And second question, is it fair to say that you don't believe that negotiation will end this war? And if that's true, then what will end it?
If you ask me personally, nobody pressed to me about any compromise of the territories, and I didn't know any facts that somebody in the level of the leaders or some politics from our partners and friends just not press, just not started discussed, because they clearly understand it's not acceptable for us. About negotiations, of course, we understand and always in the history the war ended by some kind of negotiations. Negotiations can be very different. Sometimes it's capitulations, sometimes it's the party reach some agreements. It depends on the political will. Political will and the goal of Ukraine. We not pretended for any territories in Russia. We not started these aggressions. With democracy, freedom, and independent country. We are victim of these aggressions. And I'm explaining, for any conversation, it's necessary not just to talk. It's necessary to have the plan, what we are discussed today. And for us, it's very important that responsible country judge our plan and say that it's real plan, it's realistic plan, it's just plan. And what I'm listening and today, it's more country in these positions. And with some country, we continue to talk, we continue answer to some questions, we continue to find some solutions. But again, if it will be negotiations, how withdraw the troops from our territory, how it's to restore the territorial integrity in international recognized border, how to back all our people, including our illegally kidnapped children, how to pay compensations, how the people who make these criminals orders and who execute these crimes will be responsible, and another questions. If coming the real moment to talk about this and we have the plan on the table, maybe it will be right moment to talk.
Thank you. And the last question to the gentleman there.
Thank you. My name is Kodama from Kyodo News. In my understanding, you are looking for the Global Peace Summit to be held soon, and you are trying to, facilitate the summit and set the date and set the location today. So can I understand you couldn't, do it as you scheduled? And about negotiation, you said Russia's aggression gives them a pause to upgrade their military, and the Russian doesn't want peace. No peace. They don't want peace. So are you do you believe your peace formula is really realistic and achievable? As Mr. Zelensky said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can say we are very ambitious people, but realistic. And it's not my expectation for today. We not just discussed concrete period of time and the place of the peaceful summit. And it's not right that we are looking for this and not take these results. Our goal for today's meetings was presentations of the next 5 points and working groups and 2 specific panels. And we have very good results of these conversations. And now, next steps, as colleagues ask, it's starting to talk, to thought about the inaugurated peaceful summit. It means that this work immediately started when we have finished these successful meetings of today. About negotiations, can you clarify your question, please?
According to the government's, a website, you said in the meeting, Russia doesn't want peace. And they want domination. And so the choice is simple. Either we lose or vanish or win and live on. You said so in the meeting. And in the meantime, Russia categorically denied, refused to accept the peace formula. It's clear. So I'm simply, wondering if you keep this position, as you said, is it really achievable, to looking forward the peace based on peace formula? This is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, try to negotiate the rockets and the bomb. As why you are absolutely right, say and repeated my words about negotiations and the goal of the Russia for today. Then President Zelensky coming with this idea, initiative, peaceful formula, he didn't thinking about the Russia and about their thoughts and their attitude for this. It was about the responsible country, and the mostly country in the world responsible, and mostly country in the world respects international law and chapter of United Nations. And the goal of the peaceful formula, to concentrate it, to unite this country, And believe me that you can see the results once again. Russia already, all the world saw this. They have not results. They won't have the blitzkrieg. It's not happened. 2 years. It's not 2 days, not 2 months, 2 years. And it's mean that, you know, we continue have some good results and some very impressed results in the front line. And our force continue fightings. And plus, the positions of the international society, the most powerful country from each continent, it's a very strong arguments and for Russia. And when you think about what will be reactions if they not accept, you know, sometimes it's once again about grain corridors. They not accept. They said, no, this is our condition, this is our blackmails. And we listened some voices. No, it's impossible. You have to only go for the compromise. It's impossible without the permission of this terrorist country. Look to reality.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists for all the engagement today. We were also very pleased at the World Economic Forum that this meeting happened here within the framework of the annual meeting. This concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.